India. Can anybody give me a reason, why Hinduism triumphed over Buddhism in the long run? Buddhism had what weakness or two?
It appealed to untouchables.
What's that?
It appealed to the untouchables.
Buddhism had too much appeal to the untouchables, right, the caste system. The Hinduism, people just simply seem to love their caste system. And Buddhism seemed to be undercutting it. And of course, Hinduism had to make a change. They began to appeal more to the lower caste also, and when they did, Buddhism's days were numbered. Now, in China, Confucianism. What did the Chinese have to do? The Confucians have to do to make them the dominant religion when they were threatened? Become more spiritual, yeah. They were not, we don't even know if Confucius believed that there's a God. So the Chinese they called it a religion, but actually it was probably more of a philosophy. But they changed Confucius almost to a deity, and their religion became more spiritual. It's called Neo-Confucianism. Before I go on with the review, there is something that will be on the test. There's stuff, I got a few questions about this, about what the difference was between China and Europe, and I think I've neglected to, so I'm going to repeat it now, and the other class can see it also. China and Europe had a different mindset. The Chinese, as you may know, started out technologically more advanced, but they fell behind. One reason I think that China's problem was China was united, Europe divided. Why is that important? Some nations have a tendency to stay united, some to stay divided. Europe was united for a few hundred years under the Roman Empire and then just fell apart and never united again. And divided peoples might have a better chance that one of these peoples will find a way, the way of prosperity, the way of technological advance. If China had been divided into 50 independent countries, one or two of them might have found a way and gone on and advanced and brought the rest of China up with it. As it was, also in the case of Chinese, their philosophers emphasized morality, moral improvement. Europeans tended to emphasize enterprise, merchants, gaining wealth. The Chinese looked on this as being greed even more so than the Europeans did. And they discouraged gaining wealth, they discouraged the merchants. Europe encouraged them.
So you said that because they weren't divided?
I think that because China was not divided, that this was actually a handicap. That had they been divided China, one of the independent 50 countries that they didn't have. But if they would have, one or two of them might have found a way and pushed forward. If Europe had been united, the more enterprising countries like Great Britain and perhaps Germany might have been quenched if Europe had been united under one central government. As it was, Europe was divided and they forged ahead. China was united, and their unity, thanks to their philosophers, kept them behind. We in America might not appreciate philosophers, but so been down through the ages, so many people followed the lead of philosophers. We in America, we generally don't. We do our own independent thinking, more so than others. But the Chinese emperors would ask for advice from a philosopher much more than a European monarch. And Europeans would follow their intellectuals much more than Americans did. The Europeans, even 100 years ago, had intellectuals like Kant and Dewey that Europeans would read and follow. The Americans just simply don't have intellectuals. Another thing, though, the Chinese emphasized, if you're up and going, get a government position. That's the way to get ahead. Nothing but government, government, government. And all their enterprising people just sought for government. In Europe, well, hey, if you didn't want to do government work, well, you could become, you could invent, you could become a musician, you could patronize the arts. I mean, Mozart never held a government position, but we remember his name because of his achievements in music. And then there's Da Vinci, who also never held a government position, but we remember him because of his scientific advances. Francis Bacon, Roger Bacon, same thing. We remember the